Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. All right, got Sigmund Kramer and me, and we're going to talk a little bit about some stuff that's happening out there in the news front. Last week, I wrote an article about Brian Williams. It's still featured in the media section of Huffington Post. In fact, I wrote 2 articles last week. I was busy, but wrote one on higher education based on Frank Bruni's book. People know Frank Bruni for his hit job piece he did on George Bush, but I
Doesn't
never
he
read
sound
that.
like a hitman? Frank Bruni. Hey,
he does. He does.
It.
But I never read that book. I probably won't, even though you could easily do a hit job on George W. Bush. No question about that. But his book on education is extraordinary, and I wrote a review about that over there at the education pages, and it's still featured over there as well. But Brian Williams coming back to the NBC family over at sister network MSNBC. Which means, and I'm not exaggerating, folks, he's got a potential audience of around 6% of what he enjoyed at NBC.
Wow.
6%.
Wow. You know, I guess I'm just going to...
Yeah.
That's got to hurt.
It's got to hurt. And a pretty significant salary cut.
Yeah, that's got to hurt too. But he's
How
lucky.
do you pay someone $10 million a year to reach approximately 150,000 people?
Yeah, you don't.
A week.
If he makes $1 million a year there now, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, their demographics.
Be very surprised.
Oh, he'll make probably, I would guess, 3 or 4 million. But
I was going to say
CNN will grab him for.
It's not a meritocracy, so they will give him some ridiculous amount of money to do nothing, basically.
The thesis of my article was what does that say about MSNBC? So they have Al Sharpton, the activist. They've got Chris Matthews, who's never really even claimed to be a news guy. He was Tip O'Neill's aide. He's a pure editorial guy. He was a Jimmy Carter
speechwriter.
Yeah, exactly. So activists, demagogues, and liars. Is that the new? It's no longer move forward. It's
Isn't Melissa Harris Perry there too?
Who?
Melissa Harris Perry.
Yep, I believe so. Mm-hmm.
And she is about as bad as they get. And is Ed Schultz still there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ed Schultz.
Yeah, Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing.
He certainly doesn't.
It is all bad news for Brian Williams to join that cast of characters. And also, what does it say about NBC and their view of MSNBC's viewership?
Well, what do you mean? It's a very elite group.
Well, NBC has a rarefied air. There's all three.
It has probably less than half the viewerships of headline news.
Okay, well,
CNN's ugly stepchild.
Here's what I mean. Brian Williams got kicked out of NBC Nightly News because he was a liar.
He was a liar.
Okay?
A chronic, perpetual liar.
There's a veracity problem.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so he's not good enough for NBC's viewership.
Right.
Because he's a liar and they respect their viewers too much. So let's send him over to MSNBC.
Exactly. That's what I said.
What is that?
That was the point of my article.
What is their thought of MSNBC's viewership? They must not respect them. They must think that either they're too stupid, too ideological, or just, they like liars.
Yeah.
And so...
Demagogues, activists, and liars.
Yeah.
That was my whole point. And the reality is I think MSNBC is about to face major changes, ranging from being completely sold.
To Al Jazeera. Who gets better ratings.
It's got to. Isn't that the old current TV channels now, Al Jazeera?
Yeah, and it gets better ratings.
Yeah, it does. It says volumes. But I can see, because remember, MSNBC was not the brainchild of NBC alone. It was also
Microsoft.
Yeah, Microsoft.
Bill
That's
Gates.
the MS part.
Right.
He has no longer any association with it.
That's BSNBC.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's who they all sell to. Someone with the initials BS somewhere in there. But I believe it could be as dramatic as being sold or a complete format redo. If they were smart, we had this conversation before. If CNN were smart and they have this ugly stepsister called HLN. If they're smart, let HLN be a hardcore conservative thing. Instead, they compete directly against each other.
Yeah, it's cannibalism.
It is cannibalism. And that shows you how hardcore of ideologues they are.
Well, if they were really hardcore ideologues, they'd be MSNBC. You know what I mean? At least CNN has some.
No, they're smart ideologues. Because MSNBC only attracts hardcore liberals, which kind of shows you that's an interesting revelation as well. How small the number of really hardcore ideologues out there. I think CNN and HLN are actually trying to move people left
that are consuming television for their news.
Right.
Okay, that's the caveat.
They're trying to move people left where basically it's a choir call for MSNBC.
A lot of hardcore liberals aren't getting their news fix from television anymore. It's online. And so they're going to websites and blogs and it's kind of an underground method for them.
Yeah.
It's not really as mainstream. It's more underground. But Mother Jones, Daily Calls. Those are the website, Vox, Vice. There are so many different places, or Vice may be a bad example, but there are so many places.
You say Vice?
Yeah.
Is that a channel?
It's it may be, but it's a website. But Vox,
awesome. Remember, we interviewed a guy from who went to North Korea. Who contributes to Vice?
Right. So
that was fascinating.
That's just saying maybe they're not a good example, but.
They probably have higher ratings than MSNBC.
Who doesn't? At this point, Charlie Rose probably does.
Yeah.
And anyway, Merv Griffin probably does, and he's been dead for how long?
Yeah.
So the point is, MSNBC. We've got problems. Let's throw Brian Williams over there because he's not a stinking rose. I mean. He's a corpse flower, and he's going over to to be with MSNBC as if he's going to somehow make everyone rise up to the level of
his high level of lying.
Of what? They're going to rise up to.
Well, he's a great newsreader. He has low integrity, but he can talk.
Yeah.
I won't say no integrity.
I hope
obviously low integrity.
I hope that he only slow jams. From now on.
Slow jams.
He really ought to have gone on to the Jimmy Fallon show.
That's what I think he should have done.
And he should have been Jimmy's kind of Ed McMahon character.
Oh,
that's what they should have done.
No. I saw him following. I saw him following Jimmy Fallon, taking Seth Meyers' place.
Have his own show.
Although I like Seth. That's the watch.
Start with the Ed McMahon role, and then.
I don't know. The guy he has now is pretty good in that role. I like Jimmy Fallon, by the way. I watch that show 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, I think that guy's really, really just kind of there.
Which is what Ed McMahon kind of was.
But Brian Williams, at least, there'd be that whole, hey, it's Brian Williams kind of thing, It's like if CBS, if David Letterman.
The world's richest sidekick.
If they'd replaced Paul Schaefer at Letterman with Dan Rather.
That would awesome.
After the fake facts thing,
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Here's some interesting facts. Compared to the same month last year, this is in April, MSNBC was down 12% in total viewers, 19% in the age 25 to 54 viewers in total day. In primetime, the network was down -10 and -26%, respectively. Morning Joe slipped to third among the cable news morning shows in April, delivering its lowest rated month in total viewers since December 2009. All 3 of MSNBC's primetime shows were down across the board compared to April of 2013. All In with Chris Hayes was down 7% in show viewers, 27% in the demo. Rachel Maddow, which I can't believe anyone watches that show, down 4% in total viewers. You just go right down the line. MSNBC really is a flat line. It's like, in terms like, it needs to be on life support. And maybe that's what Brian Williams is.
Well, I think their demographic is shifting from male to female because they're going through transgender operative. But anyway,
and I like this. This is a great line.
He missed that.
This is, by the way, from Politics
Kevin
USA. What's that?
No, nothing.
Oh, sorry. Did you say something witty for once? And I missed it?
I did. But that's fine.
It was colossal. It was a colossally dumb move to go liberal nerd when the average of an MSNBC viewer was 55.
Yeah. Liberal nerds.
Liberal nerd. That's a good way of describing it, too.
But, it's interesting that people say Fox News is for old people. Well, 55 is pretty much old. It's decrepit when you come to marketing, purposes. What I had said was that the demographics have shifted from male to female at MSNBC because there's so many transgender operations. I'm
glad I missed it originally.
Yeah. Anyway.
Dang.
Look, Brian Williams needs to be on suicide watch. I hope that people are taking this seriously. He needs to be on suicide watch. There's no way that this is going to end well for that man.
I personally think, this sounds bizarre, he relishes the challenge. Because it's a challenge. He's being brought in there for no other reason but to save that network. I really believe that. That's the reason why the shift is happening. And I think I saw a couple of interviews he's done, and he acts like a man who relishes the challenge.
That's all front, buddy. That's all front. That's survival mode right there.
It could be just pure adrenaline.
There's ego.
Could be pure adrenaline.
Adrenaline doesn't last for weeks and months. Ego. It is pure ego. He needs a win. He needs to be able to turn. Now, my point is, when it doesn't work, that man needs to be on suicide watch because where's he going to go from here?
He can go to Current.
Hey, he can go to.
That's Al Jazeera now.
He can go to AOL.
Yeah, well, what's their name's on Yahoo?
I know. That's my point. He could go to AOL. How about Prodigy? I think maybe they've still got some.
Prodigy?
Yeah, Netscape. Maybe they've got a news media group.
Now you're just ridiculous. All right, when we come back, much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there. I do also want to remind you that today's program brought to you in part by our friends over at priceofbusiness.com. More for you right after this.